On today's episode, we're going to run through the playoff picture. We're going to talk about the odds and the rooting guide and whatnot. If you are unable to spend all day at work like I do, living on the ESPN playoff machine or the New York Times playoff probability, you're really going to enjoy this video because I'm going to run through all the realistic scenarios. First, a little bit of a primer, the NFC playoff picture. Now, we are filming this on Thursday during our live show before the 49ers Thursday night game. So some of that will change, but it really doesn't impact Atlanta all too much because the Falcons really have one simple path: past the Buccaneers in the NFC South, or maybe catch up to the Commanders for the wild card spot. So ignore that part, but I'm just going to shoot my shot right now and say the Niners win on Thursday night. We'll see how this ages. So let's talk about the Falcons' upcoming schedule. They got the Raiders on Monday, the Giants at home. Must-win games from multiple perspectives. From a numbers perspective, one loss and you really start to sink yourself. If you can't beat these teams, you're not going to beat these teams. And these teams aren't that great. The Commanders, they're a playoff team, but they've lost 3 in a row not too long ago. And the Panthers, they are not quitting. Kudos to them. They are playing hard the last couple of weeks. And Bryce Young looks like he might be the long-term play at Carolina after all. So, where do things stand in the NFC South? The Falcons, with their 4-game losing streak, have fallen behind the Buccaneers. The good news is they do have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so they just need Tampa to slip up once, and if they find themselves in a tie goes to Falcons. So they just need Tampa to make one mistake, but they do not control their own destiny. So let's run through what's at stake coming up in Week 15. If the Falcons beat the Raiders on Monday night, and the Buccaneers lose to the Chargers, Atlanta has a 57% chance of making the playoffs. They would be tied once again in the NFC South race, and then Atlanta would regain control of their own destiny. So, advantage Atlanta for this upcoming week. Let's say both teams win. Well, now we're kind of burning daylight because we go from 4 games remaining to catch up on the Buccaneers to 3 games. So the probability is down to 44%, which isn't very far off from what it is right now. Now we're going to run through a whole lot of other permutations and possibilities in just a second. But if you want a Falcons playoff watch party like I do, sub for dubs. Let's get some mojo rolling. Let's get some good momentum going into the last quarter of the year by clicking that subscribe button. Let's try and build together one hell of a Falcons community. Now, for the divisional spot, it's pretty simple, right? You got to tie the Buccaneers or surpass them. So whatever they do, you have to match or do better. And if you keep matching, you're going to run out of weeks. What about the wild card? This is something we haven't really discussed, and I want to take some time to divulge the possibility of Atlanta maybe getting a wild card spot, which didn't seem like a real chance a few weeks ago, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think. I do want to talk about our friends over at Prize Picks super quickly, though. Prize Picks is really simple and fun to use. All you're going to do at Prize Picks is pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. And you could turn, $10 into 200 times that with Pickmas. So run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks also offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. They also love doing all these fun little deals like Patrick Mahomes' passing yards at 0.5. They're just giving you a freebie. Go out there and take it. You pair one more with it, and you got some coin in your pocket. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So let's circle back to the wild card spot. Like I said, we are awaiting, for me at least personally at this moment, the results of Thursday Night Football. But let's just focus on catching up to the Commanders, because ultimately that is the team you have to catch. I don't see Atlanta catching up to obviously the Vikings. I think that's mathematically, they don't have a tiebreak. It's whatever. The Packers is unlikely as well. So let's just talk about Washington. Here are their remaining games. They go to New Orleans, which we have learned They are a frisky team under interim head coach Rizzi, so that is no cakewalk. They got the Eagles, the Falcons coming to town, a couple bird matchups right here, and they close out the year with a third straight home game against the Cowboys. This one I think is at Dallas, actually. Sorry, this is at the Cowboys. So they got Saints, Eagles, Falcons, and then at Dallas to close out the year. So not a super easy schedule for them, but they built themselves a nice little cushion going into the end of the year. Let's talk about some of the probabilities. Let's say this week, week 15, Falcons beat the Raiders. Buccaneers beat the Chargers. Obviously, number one goal is Buccaneers lose, and that's great for Atlanta. But if Tampa keeps winning and Atlanta keeps winning, what if the Commanders lose to the Saints on the road? Just a 9% chance of making the playoffs. But let's take it one step further. Let's say Falcons win, Bucs win, and Commanders win. Not great for Atlanta, not making up any ground, running out of time to do so, falls to 5% chance, which I think we can all acknowledge that the Commanders are probably more likely than not going to beat the Saints. If I had to pick one, it would probably be DC, but never quite know, especially, Saints are without Derek Carr, so nothing's a guarantee in the NFL, but that definitely doesn't help out Atlanta. So let's just say all three teams win, which is not great for Atlanta because they can't make up any ground. All right? Let's say we move into week 15 now. Okay, week 16. So you take what happened in week 15 that we just talked about. Falcons win, and the Commanders lose because the Commanders play the Eagles while the Falcons play the Giants. Now we're at an 11% chance, and this is under the belief that the Commanders are going to beat the Saints. So I'm building in some slack here. If this happens, then we move into week 17. Stick with me. We're going to land this plane together. Week 15 and 16 that we just talked about rolled into Falcons beat the Commanders, and now it's a 56% chance Atlanta gets a wild card spot. The Falcons are 2 games back from the Commanders. If they beat them head-to-head, they'll have the tiebreaker, and they'll be 1 game back. Thus, they would just need the Commanders to lose 1 more game. The Eagles, which is probably going to happen, again, just going off the favorites here, and just like that, the Falcons are right in the mix. But the biggest thing that Atlanta has to focus on here is they need to win themselves. They can probably get the help they are going to need. I would not be surprised if the Commanders go 1-1 in the next 2 weeks, and the Falcons then go into week 17 in D.C. with an opportunity to overtake them in the wild card race, have the tiebreaker, and be 8-6 right there with them. 8-7, yeah. But they have to take care of business themselves. So if you want a shortened version of the rooting guide for yourself this next month or so, root against the Buccaneers, root against the Commanders. That is the mantra. Priority number 1, catch up to Tampa. If we can't catch up to Tampa because they keep winning, root against the Commanders. Falcons win these next 2 games. And the Commanders lose just 1 of these 2 games. Just 1. Then we go into this game right here, and the Falcons will be able to control their own destiny. If they beat the Commanders, they'll have the tiebreaker, and they'll have a really good chance of then jumping into the wild card spot depending on what the other teams like the Rams are doing. So we can't focus too much on those other teams right now that are also in the outside looking in, but let's just focus on taking down someone on the inside to fall out. So some big games coming up for Atlanta, obviously in terms of importance, but luckily for them, they're kind of like gimmies, some FCS opponents. It feels like the beginning of a college football season. Playing the Raiders and the Giants, 2 teams that are complete disarray. But we have seen this from before in the NFL. Come Sunday, those guys in the field are not going to care about what pick they have in the draft in April. They're going to play hard, and if you don't give it 100%, they are going to beat you. Having said all this, I am terrified for Monday Night Football. I really am. I think I've been pretty honest with you guys all season long on a week-to-week basis of where I stand for the Falcons on like whether or not I think they're going to win. I feel like everyone is just rooting on the Falcons to just turn it around. We've been saying that for a month now, and it hasn't happened. So when we're just hoping it happens, that's when I start to get terrified. I want to be wrong. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to win, but I am saying right now I am nervous. Someone else give me some confidence because I don't have any right now. So what are your score predictions for Falcons versus Raiders? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to say Atlanta wins a close one, 21-20. It's not even like a walk-off field goal. I'm going to say the Raiders have the ball at the chance at the end to win it, and Desmond Ridder throws an interception, and we can all exhale but go, that was too close for comfort. If we're going to beat the Raiders by 1 point, then we're going to be in trouble when we get to the playoffs, if we get there.